Welcome, patriots, gaytriots, and theytriots.
Caw-caw!
It is a great day here at IHIP News where we like to promote democracy, but also traffic on the petty side of it. And yesterday was the Super Bowl of petty politics.
It was so much fun until it got so boring. My eyes were going to fall out of my head.
Donovan Lecter started yesterday morning in his bunker at Mar-a-Lago. He wakes up and he starts seeing polls that Kamala is surging past him. He starts having a stage 5 meltdown on Truth Social, which we are like, tap the vein, keep it coming. It was just a jet stream of bullshit coming on his Truth Social feed that all of a sudden ended with him just as manic as he could possibly be. He's going to have a general press conference in the battleground area of the private club Mar-a-Lago.
I thought it was interesting that yesterday he posted on Truth Social 72 times.
Yeah.
I mean, that is unwell. If one of my friends posted 72 times, I would say, what's going on?
This is what psychiatrists call a manic episode. It's a full-blown, well-documented manic episode. And speaking of psychiatrists, you know, you and I spoke yesterday on the broadcast that Donald Trump is so upset constantly about crowd sizes.
He can't stop.
And Kamala HQ joined Truth Social, and they've been posting the crowd size disparity, hers being greater, his being smaller. And it seems to be working because the manic episode is in full swing. So there are so many things that we could talk about, the Mar-a-Lago meltdown, but I like to focus on the pettiest part of it of all, which let's play a clip where he's talking about the crowd size that Midas Touch clipped up.
Ever spoken. I've spoken to the biggest crowds. Nobody's spoken to crowds bigger than me. If you look at Martin Luther King, when he did his speech, his great speech, and you look at ours, same real estate, same everything, same number of people. If not, we had more. And they said he had 1 million people, but I had 25,000 people. But when you look at the exact same picture, and everything's the same because it was the fountains, the whole thing, all the way back to from Lincoln to Washington, and you look at it, and you look at the picture of his crowd, my crowd, we actually had more people.
Okay. Okay. Number one, that's the biggest lie on the planet. Yeah. His very first press conference when he was president, he sent out Pink Arm Sean Spicer, who starts lying about inaugural crowd sizes, which Obama's was objectively, verifiably larger. So he's constantly talking about the size of things. And I thought, I wonder if we knew somebody or had video evidence of somebody that could tell us the size and nature of Donovan Lecter's penis. And I dug on YouTube, and here is some evidence and a window into where all this crowd size stuff stems from.
Which of these mushrooms, orange mushrooms, would most represent the commander-in-chief of the United States military? They might fall off, though. Oh! Is this the one?
It's a nubbin!
It's a nubbin.
It's a nubbin!
So there you have it.
We've always said somebody that obsessed with size and crowd size, that's constantly talking about crowd size, that's constantly, his has to be the bigger. I think at one point yesterday he said he's spoken to the biggest crowds in the whole entire world in the history of the world, which is just objectively false again. But you go back, what is the obsession with size?
Stormy Daniels delivers for America like the true patriot that she is. But there's something more insidious about what he does when he compares on equal footing in his mind January 6th with Martin Luther King's I've Had a Dream speech. That is so insidious and such a false equivalency, because in Martin Luther King, you have a man that was promoting freedom and liberty for an enslaved and abused group of our fellow Americans who really was trying to make a better place for all of us. And then you juxtapose that with January 6th, and you have these bottom feeders, members of a cult that go beat up cops, all for this man. And of note, at his Mar-a-Lago meltdown, he didn't even have like all of his MAGA shit out there.
No, it was the first time I've ever seen that.
It was a Mar-a-Lago lectern. He didn't have all the MAGA stuff. And I think that this campaign is in complete free fall, as evidenced by during his manic episode yesterday on Truth Social. He puts out some video and it says, "Criminals for Kamala."
That was my favorite.
And then he truths this, and then somebody, of course, does the go to the next one, Seth. But he actually put this on Truth Social. Right. We are living in a pro-criminal atmosphere. It will end on November 5th. And I want to say exactly.
That's the whole point. Nailed it.
And did you just endorse Kamala Harris?
Yeah.
Because you and all of your sycophants are the criminals.
You are the criminals. You've been convicted on 34 felony counts. You've got many, many more trials to face. Like over 600 people on January 6th were criminals. I mean, he is a criminal. When is he going to get through his head? He is the crime spree. He is the criminal. He is the lawbreaker. Not Kamala Harris or Joe Biden, but he can't.
He's the one when he says the world is laughing at us, they're laughing at you and your movement.
That's right.
When you say this is like a third world country, January 6th was third world country shit. Every accusation with MAGA is a confession. It's jaw-dropping how unhinged this man is. And I realized yesterday, because you and I watched this press conference together, and after about 15 minutes, it gets boring because it's the same song and dance.
And lies.
And then Jesse Waters over on Fox last night said he thought it was a great press conference.
Of course he did.
And I really genuinely believe that watching right-wing media makes you dumber.
I do too. And I've been perusing Truth Social of late, and I realize these people, if the shit that's on there, if they believe it, no wonder they think the world's going to hell. Every other post is the world's going to hell. World War III is coming. America is shit. The economy is shit. Criminals are coming up. I mean, it's just a barrage of negativity.
And lies.
And lies. And
propaganda.
Lies, propaganda. And I'm watching that press conference and I was thinking, if you did a real-time fact check, it would take 100 people to fact check him in real time because he lies like he breathes. I mean, every other word was an objective lie, like his story about the helicopter with the mayor of San Francisco. That never happened.
Right.
It never happened.
Right.
But he just lies and lies and lies. So if it weren't so dangerous, it would be amusing.
I want to point out that he started off the press conference trying to show empathy for Joe Biden. And he and a lot of his sycophants in MAGA, their new big push is the Democratic Party staged a coup and Joe Biden regrets it and nobody voted for Kamala. And that's their big thing. Like, they're really worried about all of us. And I just want to point out that, number one, tens of millions of people voted for a Biden-Harris ticket. And we are smart enough to do something that MAGA is incapable of doing, and that's what you call playing the tape through. When we vote for an elderly person, we assume that possibly they are at higher risk for medical issues / death. We all knew that if something were to happen with Joe Biden, the number 2 person on that ticket is Kamala Harris. And so, granted, we did not vote for her in the primary, but in a way we kind of did, because for the general election of 2020, they received more votes than Donald Trump,
right,
and any other candidate in the history of the country. And so what I have to say about this is buckle up, Buttercup, because come November 5th, she's going to get all the votes, every single one of them, except for the MAGA cult. And we are coming and we are going to barnstorm the country. And women, he tried to minimize yesterday the impact of the abortion issue, as though we were talking about like building a bridge somewhere.
Right. He minimized it to such a degree. And I don't know if it was sexism or stupidity. I couldn't decide. That will have to be left to his very small brains.
Well, we know he's both.
Right.
But he's at the stage right now where he's saying what he believes will get him votes. Every statement that he says right now is transactional. So he had Stephen Miller on CNN or MSNBC, and Stephen Miller is, the creepiest, most unfuckable person outside of Ted Cruz.
Yeah.
And Stephen Miller is saying there will not be a national abortion ban. They are trying desperately to pull independence back over, because what prompted this meltdown is when you look at the micro polling of what's going on right now, and MAGA has their own internal polls, and that campaign has always leaked like, totally. And so it's already coming out that they got devastating internal polling yesterday because independents are fleeing the MAGA movement by double digits over to Kamala Harris. So every statement that he says, it's a lot more vapid than is it sexist or is it stupid? It is transactional. It is, no, I just don't think abortion's that big of a deal anymore. And it's an attempt to gaslight everything he says. And then the way he treats Jewish Americans, the way he treats Indian and Black Americans, and his dismissive language that only he knows what's best for them, that if you're a Jewish person and you vote for the other ticket, you need to have your head examined, as though they don't have their own agency to discern how they want to vote. And then he really minimized Kamala's, or again, back to race, because she is of mixed race, which MAGA has a very difficult time understanding that two human beings of different ethnic backgrounds can breed, and the offspring of that is a person of mixed race. And he very dismissively and cruelly said that he thought that her saying that she was Black and Indian, which is a fact, was disrespectful to both. He said that.
I mean, it's unbelievable, the things that he says. What I took out of that, though, is he sure does miss Joe Biden. He misses him.
Oh, they all do. And I love more than anything on the planet, I mean, I can't get enough that they are such a party of zero policy, with the exception of 2025, Project 2025.
Right, that's it.
That they had nothing to run against except for Joe Biden's age. That's all they did. They went all chips in on him. And to a degree, it was very effective. They, again, don't have the ability to play the tape through. And the entire country is coalescing around the Harris Walz ticket. And they're trying to act like, I can't believe they did this to Joe Biden.
Right.
And projecting like he regrets it. And it's like, no, he doesn't regret it. He had, whether you believe it or not, he has agency. Is he older? Yes. But what Joe Biden did in 2020, when he ran against Donald Trump, was save this country from fascism and rebuild the economy, and tried very earnestly to undo as much of the Trump policies as he can. But he has this inept, impotent Congress that a lot of them are MAGA nuts as well. But at the end of the day, when it came down to it, he listened to the American public and to members of his party and realized that he loved his country more than he loved being president. And he did what MAGA can't conceive of doing. He didn't pass over the Black woman. And that's what a lot of Americans would have done. He picked her to be his replacement, his number two. It was Joe Biden and then Kamala Harris. That's who he picked. So when he said, I'm not going to run again, he said, there's no conversation about who's next, because this is who's next. This is who I pass the torch to. And everybody needed to see a white man, a member of the patriarchy, do what's right for Black women. And Joe Biden did that. And everybody was so grateful that he did that. And we have all rallied around her, around this ticket, and around democratic ideals and principles, because we are the patriots.
That's right.
We are the gaytriots. We are the theytriots. And we have fucking had it with these dipshit MAGA bottom feeders.
I cannot wait for to just be a robust mandate against them and their policies. Everything they said just made me sick. Everything he stands for is gross. Project 2025 is gross. I am so ready for him to ride off into the sunset and be gone.
It pisses me off that the press is even giving airtime to J.D. Vance's argument of stolen valor against Tim Walz when J.D. Vance himself on tape has said that he believes that women should stay in violent marriages. That is so abhorrent. That is so dangerous for women. And so mainstream media get with the program here. This man, this ticket wants women to stay in abusive relationships in the United States of America. It's toxic. It's disgusting. I've completely had it.
Had it.
All right, stick with us for more hot takes.
It's so